Well, good morning, everybody. It's not yet afternoon. It's the 31st of May. We're charging into June. But before we get to June, we've got a great treat for us today. We've got Claire from lots of different things, Positively Empowered Kids, and we also have Darcy the cat. So
Temporarily, she might not stay for long.
it's sort of like we always like a bit of distraction. Claire, just tell us all about what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm co-founder with Jackie Wilson of a social enterprise, a community interest company called Positively Empowered Kids. We're all about empowering young people and their families, and also communities and businesses around them with good mental health and well-being using early intervention and prevention methods.
Okay. Early intervention and prevention methods. I'll
Mm.
pick up on that. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we find is with most things, any service provider generally, people go to you when there's a problem. So, you'll go to the doctors when you've got an issue. You'll go to an IT person when you've got a problem with your IT systems. What we want to really encourage is actually that early intervention, which is actually reaching people and empowering them to make good choices with their well-being and mental health before it becomes a problem. So before you're putting the stresses on the GP surgeries, on the services that are around to support people, because we know, from my own experience, that there is so much that you could be doing to support yourself before you kind of get to that stage, and that can often be the thing that kind of tips you one way or the other. So we're really firm advocates that actually the earlier that we, particularly with children, the earlier we can reach them, teach them techniques, teach them how to manage their emotions, their feelings, have an awareness of what they are and what they can do about them when they're feeling out of control. Then they're going to thrive. They're going to have a greater upbringing. Really fulfill their potential, build their confidence.
That's really interesting. There'll be a lot of people watching this who have kids.
Yes, absolutely.
So, what techniques are you actually? Let's just go here. Yeah. Well, what techniques are you actually giving them to empower them to actually control these kind of emotions? What techniques are there?
I mean, there's so many out there. And what we're very much an advocate of is actually showcasing all the amazing things that are out there. So it might not be us doing the techniques. It could be, that they find their way to yoga or they find their way to boxing to express some anger. It could be that they do some meditation and learn breathing techniques. But one of the things, in fact, I'll do it now with you actually, if that's all right.
Hmm?
One of the things that we do is it's really, really simple. It's all about self-awareness. So every morning we do a 1 to 10 check-in, and we do this with our team in our office every single morning. If we have meetings, we do it with people that we meet with. We do it with kids in classrooms. We do it with teachers, businesses, because actually it gives you so much information. So what we do is basically 1 to 10. 1 being kind of you're feeling really terrible, you're really struggling, 10 being that you feel amazing. So what number would you say you are? I would say in this moment I'm at an 8. I was a bit lower earlier because I was very, very tired, didn't sleep well last night. But I'm doing what I love now, which is talking to new people, telling everyone about what I do, cuddling my cat. So I'm an 8 at the moment. So what would you say you are, Tim?
I'd say I'm an 8.5.
An 8.5, fantastic. So what you find is so simple, but over time, the more you do this, the more you get in tune with how you're actually feeling. You probably, as adults kind of watching this, had days where you suddenly snap for no reason, and somebody else could maybe sense that you're in a bad mood, but you're not really aware of it yourself. If you are aware of it and you can do that check-in, particularly with children, if they can't verbalize how they're feeling or what's going on for them, it suddenly gives you a moment to go, actually, I'm not quite where I want to be today. So, for example, if you had a classroom of children and you've got 30 kids, you can't keep an eye on each of them. But if you actually did a round robin of kind of, who's under a 6 today, who's a 7, who's an 8, those people at the very top, they're going to be on great form. They're going to be thriving in the classroom, in the workplace, wherever that may be. For those that are, maybe a 5 or lower, they might need a little bit of extra support and extra nurturing. And that means you can look out for them. and that, you know, gives job satisfaction. It gives, you know, a really great management tool in the classroom, but it also gives the child the opportunity to then think about, what can I do to move myself up that scale? Therefore sort of preventing them sliding down and deteriorating with their behaviour, with their attitude, and with their mood. So that's one of our very, very simple techniques that we do with everybody, and it's very, very powerful.
That's really interesting, because that could be applied to all walks of life, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. As I say, we do employee wellbeing programs. We do it with, you know, so we do it in businesses. We did it with Balfour Beatty, you know, big construction firm, very male dominated, you know, not necessarily used to talking about their feelings, but, you know, it's not about opening up and kind of, you know, going into the, you know, the really sort of deep stuff. It just gives a surface level. So you've got an awareness, but actually people around you can, and you can use that information to help yourself, which is the early intervention that we're trying to strive for everybody.
That again. That is, people talk. I mean, mental health, and it's a lot. It's recognised far more now,
Mm,
and I was privileged. A client took me to the Lighthouse charity, and something like in 2023, 507, I may be wrong in exact numbers, but
mm.
over 500 construction workers committed suicide.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So this isn't, you know, arty-farty, cuddly-wuddly
No.
stuff, is it? This is life-changing.
This is life changing. And, you know, obviously, you know, you look at things like, you know, different holistic therapies that you can use to boost your well-being, you know, and some people do think some of it is a bit sort of wishy-washy. But actually, you know, a lot of the techniques are steeped in science, they're proven. You know, we know that we can change our pathways in our brain. And actually, you know, if we reach children early on, that's the best time to capture them. Our challenge is that actually you're very much influenced by the adults around you. So if the adults haven't got it right, as much as we're about the kids' confidence, we're really focused on helping parents and helping businesses, because you have a ripple effect. You know, you might not even realize it, even if you don't have children. If you're walking down the street, if you're having an interaction in your local supermarket and there's kids around, they're absorbing all of that. You know, they are taking it in. So, you know, we all have a responsibility to look after ourselves, but also to be showing children, you know, that it's okay to express these feelings, that they don't have to bury them, but actually when you express them, there are healthy ways of expressing it. It doesn't have to be, you know, a massive outburst, an anger thing that's, you know, driven by hormones and growth. You know, there are ways of acknowledging that and taking control of it. And you know, I've learned the hard way. That's why I do what I do.
That's absolutely fascinating, and also, as you say, is a massive social impact. There's a social cost, not only in terms of people, but in pounds, shillings, and pence, NHS, etc.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. We recognise, you know, the doctors' waiting lists are full. You know, parents can't get time with the doctors that they need. The services that they're then referred on to are, you know, really, really difficult to get access to. The waiting lists are absolutely massive, and therefore you then get parents that are frustrated. They want to do the best by their child, but they don't know where else to go. But actually, you know, there's a lot that you can do in the home yourself to just take that edge off of things. And like you say, relieve the NHS, relieve the services that are all out there really trying to help, but with limited funding, unfortunately.
So, did you always want to get into this, the CIC? I know you've got another business as well,
Mhm.
but did you always want to do this, or was it a trigger, or?
It was very organic. So I've alluded to, you know, my past. So I had mental health issues when I was a teenager. That actually stemmed from when I was a lot younger, but I hadn't recognised it until it all came out when I was 17. And I had a lot all of a sudden happen at once that I found really challenging. So I actually did sort of reach, you know, the worst point that you could reach really, and did actually try to take my own life. You know, thankfully was not successful. But, you know, I just really did reach that low point. So I always knew, once I started on my personal development journey, I always knew that I was going to be someone that would help people. You know, I was always involved doing charity work, volunteering, raising money for other organisations. And then just by nature, really, I got into the corporate world. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I worked at a boarding school in Essex for 10 years. But my role always ended up being talking and interacting and supporting people. So it was very much a very clear calling for me, that had to be an element of the work that I did. Not necessarily thinking that I would run my own business even at that stage, or charity. And when I had my daughter, she's now 13 and a half, but you know, when you become a parent, things change, you know, in your head. It's like a sort of a realignment happens. All the pieces of the jigsaw move around. And you know, I kind of didn't want her to be in the same situation that I'd been in, of not knowing what else I could do for myself, you know, being quite an independent person. So I came up with the idea of my business, my first business, which was Positive Pants. And it's a wellbeing business for children. It still exists, although I don't commit as much time to it. So I do one-to-one mentoring in the family home, because again, you know, I can teach these techniques and methods and use resources with children, but actually I want to be using them with the parents too, and supporting the parents in knowing how to support their child. Because, you know, if I come and work with a family, I'm only with them for, you know, an hour a week. You know, it needs to be then used in the home and actually put into practice. So I do one-to-one mentoring, and also have my children's book, Put on Your Positive Pants. Yeah, that was published over lockdown. Was an Amazon bestseller. So I go and, you know, can do, you know, story sessions about that. Yeah, that then led on to a collaboration that led to Positively Empowered Kids. So it was not where I imagined myself, but I think the clues were always there.
Fantastic. What a great story. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. And so, what what are the challenges that lie ahead?
I think now being a social enterprise, you know, there were a lot of cuts on funding. So that's massive at the moment. You know, so usually as a CIC, you are dependent on fundraising, getting funding in, donations. You know, as a very, you know, micro business, you know, we don't have a lot of funding and resources to get out there and do those things. So, you know, we are growing. I mean, if I give you an example of the growth, so we started as a project in 2019, and we decided we would hold a festival for kids, based on my own business and Jackie's own business herself with children's wellbeing. We recognised that the way I do things is different to the way Jackie does things. And actually, you know, a child, a family member might be more drawn to Jackie's techniques than mine, or my mannerisms more than Jackie's. So we kind of said, you know, if there's us out there doing this, there must be hundreds of other businesses and well-being people trying to do good for kids. And actually, we believe you can make a bigger impact together rather than apart. So we said, let's run a festival. You know, a bit crazy for our very first idea. But we had 500 people in Nottingham come along. We had, you know, lots of different things for kids to do, to show them what they could do to boost their mood. Holistic therapies, yoga, dance, music, open mic stage for kids to get up and boost their confidence. And the aim was that we would probably just do this as a project to just accompany our individual businesses on potentially a yearly basis. But obviously then lockdown came along. So the second festival was not going to happen. So we kind of said, well, what do we do now? But we recognised that actually there were a lot of people out there that needed support at that time. So we just went online, and we got hold of all the different people that we work with, all the different specialists, and put loads of online events on. We had 7 online events. We had a reach of 49,000 to one of them, which was a parent event. And then obviously after lockdown, it's just grown. So we go into schools, we go into secondary schools, colleges, and we do teacher training, we do family, parent things. We do lots of events around the Midlands. Our next one being on the 23rd of June in Nottingham City Centre at the Arboretum. I think the challenge for us is that we want everything to be free. So the festival is completely free to attend, because we want to reach those families that are maybe harder to reach, that maybe are not able to, to pay the money for a ticket. And so therefore we are reliant on, as I said, funding, sponsorship, donations. So for us, it's getting our name out there, getting people to understand what we do, so that we can kind of grow and help more people. We think today, I mean, our last festival we had 2,300 at, so quite a significant increase. We're expecting about 3,000 this year, and we estimate that we've reached over 7,500 children at the moment in the past few years. So we're quite proud of that. On a very small resources, and based on a lot of people helping us out and being very generous with their time and resources and things.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for sharing that as well. So I'm going to probably end with this. You've got lots of different things happening. How do you balance your personal life with all this?
We are very much advocates of practicing what we preach. Particularly, I have a number of health conditions that I have to juggle amongst everything. So, for example, Fridays, I'm sitting in my home, because we tend to take Fridays out of the office to kind of, use that time how we want, because there will be times when we're working late, there'll be times at the weekends when we're doing events, and particularly this busy time at the moment. It is really important that we work to our strengths, and to do that we have to be strong ourselves, which goes back to why we work with companies and corporates, and businesses, because actually you need to look after yourself first before you can then actually help others. So yeah, I'm creating, being a business owner myself is lovely. I think employment, I learned a lot from it, but it really wasn't for me. And I think, I can be flexible around what my needs are. I'm building the life that I really want. I'm giving value. So that fills me with joy. But, my spare time, I like going to the theatre with my daughter, I go to a lot of gigs and comedy show. I'm going to a comedy show tonight. I love socializing, I love the networking side of things, and I love making a difference. So, everything kind of fills me up.
Brilliant. Claire, thank you so much for your time. That was a fantastic story. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.